gosh, look at the crowd.
Come this way.
Those who spread goodness radiate happiness to everyone around them. Introducing LOLC Finance Credit Cards. Fuel the goodness in you.
Welcome to LMDtv. I'm Ashwini Vethakan. Joining us this week on Talking Business is the founder and lead designer of House of Lonali, Lonali Rodrigo. Welcome to the show, Lonali. It's good to have you with us.
Hi, very nice to be in the show today.
Lonali, what is your view on entrepreneurial opportunities and obstacles in Sri Lanka?
So it's a good question. And to start off with, I think for entrepreneurs, it's a good time. There's more opportunities that I see. So just to give one example is we are in a change of lifestyle, especially from a consumption patterns, especially towards a conscious consumption. So as you can see, that itself is an opportunity for entrepreneurs. Then if you look at the current situation of the economy, where there are a lot of import regulations, and that itself a great opportunity for local entrepreneurs. And then there is there's a new generation, Gen X, and the way they think, where they do things are different to what we've been doing. So I think there's a lot of space for new entrepreneurs, new innovation, new thinking, new systems. So there's a lot of opportunity that I see. So when you look at the obstacle, I think these are also obstacles. Maybe the import taxation or everything, that is an obstacle. So I think the interesting part is for an entrepreneur, there's so many obstacles, there's so many issues, and this is the best time for an entrepreneur to find solutions. So that's the obstacles I feel like can be converted into opportunity.
The global fashion industry is known as the second largest polluter. How is the local industry addressing this issue?
So I want to first brief a little bit about the statement of why fashion industry is the second largest polluter. It's not just the garment you wear, but it's the whole process, what goes into it, what happens to it, how it's manufactured, and how it ends up. So just to give you where it starts from a cotton farm where it takes about 2,700 liters of cotton water to make the cotton you need for your t-shirt. So that itself, starting from that point, then it goes for the manufacturing of textiles. At that point, there's a lot of energy consumption, and then there's when you have to dye your fabric, there's a lot of chemical discharged into your water streams. Then these apparels, the fabric comes into apparel manufacturing hubs, which are like our countries, like with Vietnam, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Egypt, Turkey. These are manufacturing hubs, mainly because we are known as manufacturing because back then the countries were making clothes in their own countries, right? After the Industrial Revolution, then the consumption and the population went up. Then you wanted cheaper clothing. That's why most of the brands offshored the manufacturing into countries like us back then. So right now we are known as manufacturing hubs, when Sri Lanka is also known as a sustainable manufacturing country. And so things come to here, places like us, and then we put together the fabric, textiles, the prints and everything, do the packing and send it across to the retailer. So textile and apparel making itself, the greenhouse gas emission of textile and apparel making is exceeded more than the international transportation and maritime carbon emission. So imagine the impact. So it is world's second largest polluter because of its whole supply, like the process. It doesn't end up there. It goes to a retail store. There's styles changing every 3 months. So there's a lot of stock ending up, and there's a lot of retail, transportation, distribution happening. And then finally the consumers come and get it, purchase so much, and then they just go with the trend, and then they finally throw the clothes. And these clothes also get either transported back to third world countries, and end up in landfill, or sometimes you have to incinerate. So this is why the fashion industry is called the second largest polluter, because if you take the whole chain, it impacts the environment. So when you look at locally, I think it's good to think from two perspectives. So our manufacturing sector is much more advanced because we are supplying to the world's top brands. Therefore, the manufacturers have looked into both people and planet perspective. So we are known as in our human capital side, we've looked at the right wages, we give their right welfare, all that. So we've looked into that area, and we're well known for that. At the same time, the environment. So they're looking at high efficiency, zero waste, and then going into carbon neutral, or reducing the carbon footprint. So that kind of like a very advanced manufacturing sector. At the same time, we also have I would like to having two separate things, where the fashion retail and the consumption is the other sector, where we are kind of in a transition period into sustainability. I think if you take a step back, maybe about 20 years ago, we were quite sustainable. We never threw clothes. Our grandparents didn't. We could always mend a garment at home. We had machines at home, or we just have to walk out. There's a seamstress outside. There's a cobbler on the road. We could make repair our shoes. So this was very sustainable model that we had in our society. But right now we are in a sort of a transition period towards fast fashion. So if we take a really step forward, it feels like we're going into trouble, which the whole world has gone and trying to come back. So that's where I feel local industries at the moment.
What does being a trendsetter in moves to reduce the industry's footprint entail?
So I think as a sustainable brand, what you also need to have is a passion towards what you do. That's very important because especially I'm coming from a sort of a millennial age, and we are not very much used to this kind of consumption. So it was, for me, being really passionate about is very important. But I think the new generation, it's kind of, they're born with it. Then also believing what you do is very important. So if you believe, because you need both, because we are in that transition period, you're trying to change everything, right? So you need that, and then commitment is very important if you want to kind of create that, a trend or create a change in this society. And that's generally for not just for fashion, that's for fashion, social entrepreneurship, or any sort of, innovation generally. And then when you come to a point of, starting a business, then you have to have, of course, how you kind of set a trend is, now you can't just make a business with profit, but you also have to look at the triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and all three angles, profit, all three angles. So just to give an example, how we've done is like at House of Lonali, we work with the cottage industry. So that's the people who we work with. And then we also try to bridge the gap between a consumer and a maker. We try to be transparent. That is a very important part of our telling our story. And then going into planet, we use the apparel industry waste as the main raw material. And then within the process, we try to keep the zero waste. And then we are in the process of looking at circularity. So that's how we implementing things for the future and for the planet. So finally, I think when you do look at the people and planet, obviously, if you do good, you can achieve a profit and a good business as well. So that's, I think, how you can achieve, we've achieved our best during the last 8 years. Yeah.
Lonali, upcycling fashion has been a trend for a while now. What is the average Sri Lankan buyer's attitude towards upcycled fashion?
So to take our experience, because we started our brand back in 2012. By that time, definitely upcycling was extremely new word. I wouldn't say that it was a new practice because I think our grandparents era, they kind of upcycled, reused did all these kind of, new models back then. Definitely they didn't throw anything. At the same time, in Buddhism, it says, you have to use an old piece of cloth to make the robe, a monk's robe, or after that, they say that to use it as mix it with clay and use it for your walls. So upcycling, reusing, recycling has been a process within the societies, but these are pretty much new words. So back in 2012, when we started, definitely it was a new word. People didn't know about it. So we started to educate a lot of people what the process was. So when we started to educate, obviously it was quite confusing. A lot of people knew recycling, but not what exactly upcycling is. Upcycling is you take waste, add value, and bring it back to a new life. So when you say the word waste, a lot of people took a step back and, they didn't want to really purchase something made out of waste because of the impression that they had on waste. But I think eventually people realized, right now the consciousness has increased, the awareness has increased. We are talking about sustainability, and it's also becoming a trend. So making a trend means that people know about it, people want to do it, want to kind of purchase, be a part of the movement. So therefore, I think right now, it's something that is much more positive than before. And in 2019, it was one of the top 3 trends, not just in fashion, but also in furniture, architecture, product designing. So I think it's much better impression on upcycling and much better awareness right now.
And on that note, we'll be going in for a short break. Welcome back as we continue our conversation with the founder and lead designer of House of Lonali, Lonali Rodrigo. Lonali, in your opinion, is the government providing sufficient incentives to support sustainable fashion?
I think there's definitely room for improvement because when you take sustainability, there are different criteria in sustainability. Especially in Sri Lanka, I think the biggest component is the craftsmanship. So if you take batik, handloom, those are craft-based industries, handlooms, craft-based textile industry, and there's a lot of other craft-based like the palmyra, which comes with the accessories and all. So for those, I think being a big part of our economy as well as SME sector, I think government has some plans and strategies, and there's few things going on. But I think when you look at a holistic approach of sustainability, there's more components such as, you could look at the fair trade component, you can look at the recycling, upcycling, that kind of angle, then circularity. So there's more areas to kind of look at. I think that's where the room or the space is for the government to kind of, support the SMEs and the innovation, all that.
Lonali, what are the most significant issues in the local fashion industry?
So I think there are few issues that I see, especially looking from a small brand perspective, because we are sitting in a big manufacturing hub, but in a very small market. So for a small brand, the first thing is the access to technology and innovation. So there's a lot of, like I said, that the manufacturers are high tech, they have all the facilities, they are very well ready to cater to the world. But as a small brand, the access we have is very limited to that kind of innovation, to technology, maybe the machinery. So that is something, that issue that as a small industry that I face. The second one is the competition, because we are also in a smaller market, like I said. So we have to sometimes compete with the imported clothing, which is like bought cheaper. Sometimes they're cheaper and sometimes less quality, or sometimes high quality. I don't know. This is like because people are bringing it down sometimes. Then there's the informal way, the formal way. This is for us. It's like we're trying to do something local. We are trying to do something, give some job opportunities, create income streams to our own artisans. So at that point, it becomes a bit difficult to us to compete in both the price, marketing, because our brands are quite small and the market is also small. And then the other one is obviously after a while we face the scaling up issue. I mean, I've been in the industry for 8 years running the brand, and then we come to a point of scaling up. So that's another issue that I see, especially from a small fashion brand perspective.
Our final question for this evening, Lonali. Besides sustainable fashion, what are some of the other trends found in the industry right now?
So there's some interesting trends that I thought. These are not, some of these are obviously fashion focused one, but one is digital is the king, because everything is now digital. We are having meetings digitally. We are connected to the whole world digitally. Other than that, we are trying to make our processes digital because we want to connect our supply chain. I think this is something that an entrepreneur or a product designer or a salesperson, we are all looking at how we could digitalize our work, right? So I think that is a really good trend for us to look forward to. And then, of course, athleisure. Athleisure is something that was coming anyway in trend for last like 5-6 years with, being the health conscious lifestyle. But being at home, it gave another different kind of twist, right? Everybody's at home. You're trying to be more healthier. You're trying to exercise. You just want to be comfortable at home. You are working at home. So this is like giving a really an interesting pace of life for everybody. So I think athleisure hype is going to be another good trend. And boom of activist. So when I say activist, it starts from, it not starts from, but Black Lives Matter. Then you come to women empowerment, animal rights, especially in the fashion sector, when there's a lot of fur and leather that's been people don't use anymore, because it used to be the luxury leather, but now they don't talk because they don't use as much as before. We are trying to change the whole process of using leather, and they've come up with innovations like the apple leather, cactus leather, or pine leather, pineapple leather, all sort of mushroom leather. This is like, it's a huge innovation space that is happening. And then finally, the climate change, the activists like Greta, they are all making a huge voice, and that gives us sort of a really creating a trend. So moving on to the next one, when there is like activists and people talking, people also try to be a part of those things. So there is an individuality and conversation coming through your fashion. So that's going to be for me, it's going to be a very interesting trend, because, if you want to be a part of one of the movements, how do you dress up for that movement? That is very important, because it shows your individuality. It shows how you think. It shows how you want to make the statement, how you want to be a part of the conversation. And that can be very quirky, that can be very conversational prints, colors. So I think it's going to be a very interesting, we've been at home a lot. So we want to come out, really show what we want to say. And then with that, we have the buy local trend coming in, especially in a country like us. It's very important. We are heading to a season, so buying local products is very important to support the local economy, local craftsmen, artisans, local small industries. At the same time, buying local is not just helping that part, but also it's a low carbon footprint product because it doesn't travel around the world in the ship. So the more you buy local stuff, especially within the region, if you can buy, you're supporting your regional craftsmen. That's even more better because you're supporting buying a low carbon footprint. So I think that's a huge trend I really look forward to as well. And then I think the biggest driver of all this is also the economic crisis and the cost of living going up. So I guess these are all like moving together. So I think that'll be a driver for all these trends as well. So I'm really looking forward and thinking that entrepreneurs will have a lot of opportunity.
Well, this has definitely been an interesting conversation and has shed some light on the fashion industry and its movement towards a sustainable economy. Thank you for joining us on the show this evening, Lonali.
Thank you so much for having me. All the best.
Coming up, we have an update from the nation's burning issues. Stay tuned.
You love the feeling of being renewed. To stay beautiful every single day. To breathe just like we do, because you are truly delicate, protecting the ones who've been with us through the years. With Sayalac Care, the only wood coating that truly protects you. Sayalac Wood Coatings from JAT.
Welcome back to the show, and here's the latest from the island's burning issues. As Sri Lanka continue to face a number of economic challenges such as the foreign exchange crisis and prospect of debt repayments, fewer respondents to the latest LMD Nielsen IQ Business Confidence Index or BCI pointed to the spread of COVID-19 as a concern compared to August. With the number of reported COVID-19 cases and deaths trending downwards when the exclusive survey was conducted in the first week of September, 73% of those consulted by the pollsters considered the effects of the pandemic to be the most pressing issue for business in Sri Lanka today, a decline from the 9 in 10 who said so in the previous month. The value of the rupee is viewed as the second most pressing concern for business according to 41% of the survey sample. This marks a substantial increase from the 6% of respondents citing it as an issue in August. Inflation is also perceived to be a concern in business circles, albeit to a lesser degree than in the preceding month, as only 36% of respondents point to this being an issue. While the spread of the coronavirus continues to be cited as the most pressing national issue today, concerns seem to have waned somewhat, with 64% of the survey participants saying it is an issue compared to 89% in August. Moreover, the economy and inadequate per capita incomes are highlighted as major issues warranting national attention by 45% and 29% of those polled respectively. And that's all we have for you this week. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching and stay safe.